Good evening. My name is not Karen Mock, but Yasmin Shaker, a Toronto member of the board of the Pearson Centre. Karen sends her heartfelt regrets as she was so looking forward to welcoming you all to our 2022 Gala as her first official act as the new chair of the board. But unfortunately, just yesterday, she tested positive for COVID. So I'm stepping in on her behalf to deliver her welcoming remarks. COVID is one party favor we do not want to send home with you. And speaking of COVID, as many of you know, this gala was originally planned for 2020. We are thrilled that we are back in person to honor some of our outstanding progressive Canadian leaders. Thank you all for being here to celebrate them with us. I want to begin by acknowledging our gratitude to be meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I ask that you now please rise as we pause for a moment of silence in honor of Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth. Please be seated. And as an aside, since we are also committed to honoring our time commitments, please feel free to start on your salads as we start things off, and it sounds like many of you already have. The idea of the Pearson Centre was a gleam in Andrew Cardozo's eye in 2011 when he shared the idea with Karen and others. After he worked tirelessly to set it up and ensure national and diverse representation on the board, it was officially launched in 2013, so 2023 will be our 10th anniversary year. As a progressive think tank, our goal is to bring people and ideas together in search of good public policy. We are the only think tank that regularly brings elected officials from all parties, together with representatives of both private and public sector organizations, labor groups, academic institutions, and NGOs to discuss issues of concern to Canadians based on research, lived experience, and sound expertise. This idea of bringing together officials from all parties for meaningful and reasonable discussion is even more important now than it was in 2011, and it is one of the reasons I am so proud to support the Pearson Centre. There is a green chart on each table. If you are not already on our mailing list, which gets you updates on our events and projects throughout the year, please use your new Pearson Centre pen to write down your name and preferred email address so we can add you to our list. And I would be remiss as a board member if I did not draw your attention to the information on our Pearson 125 campaign to raise funds for our youth internship program, which marks the 125th birthday of our namesake, Lester B. Pearson. Thank you again for being here and for your support. Now it is my real pleasure to introduce our two great co-chairs for this gala. We are so grateful to them both as progressive leaders, and I could say so much about them both, but in the interest of time, I've been instructed to keep it very brief. Her Worship Bonnie Crombie is Mayor of Mississauga, and I am pleased to say a good friend of the Pearson Centre. Bonnie was a recipient of the Pearson Leadership Award in 2018. Sean Strickland is Executive Director of Canada's Building Trades Unions, the national body of the building trades unions across Canada. He has been a great supporter of our work, been a participant in our webinars, and I am pleased to say that the CBTU is a continuing sustaining sponsor of the Pearson Centre. Thank you so much, Bonnie and Sean, for your commitment to and support of the Pearson Centre. Now over to you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Yasmin, and good evening, everyone. I am delighted to be back this year to help co-chair tonight's gala in honor of 4 truly amazing Canadians. It's so exciting. Yes, we're living in uncertain times, and these are the kinds of leaders that we need to help us through. Leaders with a strong vision, who understand the power of collaboration, who are thoughtful and who are decisive, who inspire others to reach higher, and who always act with integrity, and who always put others first. These are just a few of the traits of what makes a good leader, but I think the one that we can all agree are embodied in all of tonight's honorees. And on that note, I would like to congratulate them, if we can just have them rise when I call their names. The Honorable Lisa Raitt. Lisa. Another dear friend, Mohammed Faki. Jackie Parchment. Woohoo. And Joseph Mancinelli. You have all helped strengthen our community and make Canada a better place. I want to take a brief moment to review the format for this evening. First, we recognize our sponsors, and then introduce the 4 honorees. I think I've already done that. We'll take a break for dinner, a short break, and at 7:30, we will start the panel discussion with our honorees, moderated by the wonderful Indira Naidu Harris. Indira, give us a wave so we know where you are. There she is, okay. And we're going to aim to wrap up and get you out by 8:15. So let's start off by taking a few minutes. I know it's optimistic. It's okay. It's okay. We all have goals. Let's acknowledge this evening's sponsors for the event, if I may, and I'll ask that you hold your applause until I finish the list. The sustaining sponsors are the Ontario Professional Employees, AMA-PCEO, Canada Building Trades Unions, LiUNA, the Ontario Provincial District Council. The platinum sponsor is Bruce Power. The gold sponsors are Fengate Asset Management, Baylis Medical Technologies, CIBC, Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, and Spirits Canada. The silver sponsors are Power Corporation, LiUNA Local 183, LiUNA Local 506, LiUNA Local 837, the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association, the Provincial Building and Construction Trades Council of Ontario. The copper table sponsors are Mercer Canada, Innovative Medicines Canada, Koski Minsky. The bronze sponsors are EL Financial, Charles S. Coffey, OC, the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers, SMART, the Canadian Gas Association, Cavaluso Law Firm, Intact Financial Corporation, Aurora Strategy Group, and Karen and David Mock. I also want to acknowledge the many people here today who have bought individual tickets. The Pearson Centre is able to do its work to advance good public policy because of all the generous sponsors and ticket purchasers. Please now give them a round of applause. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce some very special, well, you're all special, but some very special guests who have joined us today. The former Member of Parliament and Minister of Multiculturalism and the Status of Women, the Honourable Jean Augustine. My predecessor, the iconic and beloved former Mayor of Mississauga, Hazel McCallion. The hurricane is in the house. Former Member of Parliament, Frank Baylis from Montreal, is a sponsor tonight. Is Frank in the room? There he is. Former Member of Parliament, Selena Caesar Chavanes from Whitby. Selena, are you here? There she is. And former Member of Parliament, Kyle Peterson from Newmarket is also with us, I saw. Thank you all for your service to our great country, and with that, I will now pass things over to Sean Strickland. Sean, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Crombie. It's great to be with you all here tonight. The Pearson Centre plays an important role in bringing together thought leaders from diverse backgrounds to discuss a wide range of issues, from green infrastructure to healthcare to immigration and much more, to bring light to issues important to members of Canada's building trades unions. I'm the Executive Director of Canada's Building Trades Unions. Many of our international union affiliates are in the room here tonight. I represent 14 international union affiliates and 600,000 skilled tradespeople from coast to coast. Tonight, as co-chair, it is now my pleasure to introduce the next portion of the evening where we will meet our honorees. The board of the Pearson Centre has selected 4 outstanding individuals who come from different sectors and are making significant contributions as leaders in these uncertain times. From the disruptions we've faced throughout the pandemic, where the rules changed on how we worked, lived, and how we interacted, seemed to change on a daily basis. And it's really good to be back together again in person, and the energy that was in the room upstairs in the room right now is something that we really have missed over the last 2.5 years. So it's great we're in the room together. Absolutely. But we still have changes ahead of us. Energy security, the war in Ukraine, high inflation, many issues that we're facing on a day-to-day basis in almost an unprecedented way. But these honorees tonight have demonstrated their commitment to adapting to the changes in their own sectors and indeed providing leadership to many Canadians. Each of the award recipients will be briefly introduced by people who know them well. To keep things moving, I will very briefly introduce each person and let them introduce our honorees. So I'd like to introduce Pat Dalzell, Head of Corporate Affairs at Bruce Power. I want to give a wave there, Pat. The Honourable Monty McNaughton, Ontario Minister of Labour, Skills Development and Immigration. Frank Baylis, Executive Chairman of Baylis Medical Technologies and a former MP for the Montreal area. He was introduced earlier. And also ask Bonnie Crombie to help recognizing our honorees as well. So Pat, maybe you can kick things off.
Well, thanks, Sean, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and as Sean said, it's just so nice to be back in person and seeing people and getting caught up after 2 long years. And even though I've been saying that for the past few months, I never get tired of saying it. And it is my pleasure tonight to say a few words about the Honourable Lisa Raitt. Ms. Raitt is currently Vice Chair of Global Investment Banking at CIBC, where she brings her vast national and international experience to the banking sector. She's well known as a Member of Parliament for having been a Member of Parliament between 2008 and 2015, during which time she served in various senior portfolios, namely Minister of Natural Resources, Minister of Labour, and Minister of Transport. Ms. Raitt served as one of the most senior women in Cabinet and later was appointed as the first woman to serve as a Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, and important to say, was well-liked and respected across party lines. Throughout her time in Parliament, she has been a strong voice encouraging the increased participation in women in politics, and we all appreciate that. And a few years ago, she's been a good friend of my company, Bruce Power, for a number of years, and a few years ago I had the opportunity to spend the afternoon giving Ms. Raitt a tour of our facility, and she was so knowledgeable and knew so much about this industry that not many of us know that much about. That I felt at times she should be giving me the tour, to tell you the truth. And most importantly, she was very knowledgeable about something we're very proud of and impacts all of our lives, the fight against cancer, and the opportunity to produce medical isotopes in power reactors, and the importance of leveraging this incredible technology and expertise that we have in Canada in the fight against cancer. Lisa, please stand and be recognized as the recipient of the 2022 Pearson Progressive Leadership Award. So well deserved. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Monty McNaughton, Ontario's Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development. It really is an honor to be here with you tonight. I'm honored to be here with my family to pay tribute to the generosity and accomplishments of our good friend, LiUNA International Vice President and Regional Manager for Central and Eastern Canada, Joseph Mancinelli. With 500,000 members across North America, LiUNA is the fastest growing union on the continent. I also have to say, Joe, I just want to say thank you for being recognized tonight, because I've promised my wife to take her on a date since the June 2nd election. And it's been nice to take Kate out for dinner tonight. So Joe, thank you for that. I also want to say that Joe has introduced me a number of times at events, and I'm really happy and honored to be able to introduce him tonight. I've had the pleasure of working with Joe since my early days in government as minister. More recently, my family and I had the opportunity to join him, his wonderful family, whom are all with us tonight, as well as thousands of LiUNA labor leaders from across North America at their annual conference. Joe has provided his insights and guidance to many people over the years, including me. Together, we're training workers for life-changing careers in construction, where they can earn bigger paychecks and be proud of what they build. Joe is a tremendous advocate of community building and a champion of benevolent causes. He has raised millions of dollars for children's charities and causes, hospitals and healthcare centers, Make-A-Wish Canada, Camp Trillium, Easter Seals, the United Way, Mount Sinai, St. Joseph's Healthcare, the ALS Society, Down Syndrome Research Foundation, Larger Than Life, and Natural Disaster Relief. He has served on McMaster University's Board of Governors, the Invest Ontario Committee, as co-chair of the Toronto Region Board of Trade's Housing Affordability Committee, as a founding director of the Hamilton Health Sciences Corporation, and on the St. Joseph's Hospital Foundation Board of Directors. He has always shown tremendous leadership. On behalf of the members he serves, working collaboratively with all levels of government and with employers to protect the health, safety, and well-being of the members of LiUNA. He is a champion for giving a hand up to those who need it the most. Joseph Mancinelli is a builder of infrastructure, of communities, of family. He's a leader in Canada and right across North America, and we are lucky to have him right here in Ontario. Joe, please rise and be recognized for receiving the Pearson Progressive Leadership Award 2022. Congratulations.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Bayless, and I have the great honor of introducing you to our next recipient tonight, Ms. Jackie Parchman. And Jackie stands in great company with the other honorees. Jackie is the CEO of Mercer Canada, a prominent global consulting leader in talent, health, retirement, and investments. She's a person that's passionate about diversity and inclusion, and she's done this throughout her career. She's advocated for increased female and diverse corporate representation at all levels, but especially at the senior management level. And her work has had profound impact. Her voice has been heard. She's also a founding board member for the Black North Initiative. This is a critically important initiative, an organization that's dedicated to ending anti-Black systemic racism, something that, a torch that's been picked up, spoken about, and the work has begun. The Black North Initiative is seeking to tackle anti-Black systemic racism through a business-first mindset. And it's tasked with equipping companies and organizations with the necessary tools to meet diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Added to all this work, Jackie is also a board member of the influential Business Council of Canada. And I might add that her career and the work she's done is living proof that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just the right thing to do, it's very sound business. And you have wonderful people that come to the top when you do that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to ask Ms. Parchment to stand and to be recognized for receiving the Pearson Progressive Leadership Award 2022.
And now it is my distinct honor to introduce another inspirational leader. Mohammed Fiqi is one of Mississauga's most prominent citizens. He has won many accolades as CEO, but in 2019 he received a Business Person of the Year at the Mississauga Board of Trade. That got the year right, did I hope? You will know him as the founder of the Paramount Fine Foods, but he's also a philanthropist. Having established Paramount Fine Foods 7 years, only 7 years after immigrating to Canada from Lebanon in 1999. His story is one that highlights the significance and success of Canadian immigration. But most impressive is that since establishing Paramount Fine Foods, Mohammed has prioritized giving back to the community. Mohammed, I joke sometimes that you founded this company as a vehicle to help you give back to the community in so many very profound and fundamental ways. There have been so many occasions when he has stepped up to the plate with his checkbook in hand. Throughout the Syrian refugee crisis, he traveled to Syria to better understand the situation and eventually hired more than 150 refugees in his restaurants. During the Lebanon crisis, he spearheaded Canada Strong. He's also raised millions of dollars for the Mississauga Food Bank. He's played a pivotal role in distributing meals to food banks, to homeless encampments, to women's shelters, to frontline workers, especially with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, among other measures. Mohammed, you're a true friend of the community. Please stand and be recognized as a recipient of the Progressive Pearson Award.
Well, thank you very much, Pat, Monty, Frank, and Bonnie for recognizing our award recipients this evening. I have the pleasure of working on almost a daily basis with Joe Mancinelli. He's on my board. He's a member of the Canadian Executive Board, and I see the dedication and passion he puts into his work to better the lives of working people from coast to coast and indeed right across North America. So congratulations, Joe, sincerely. And I'd also like to say what an outstanding group of award recipients this evening. Please, one final round of applause for an outstanding group of award recipients this evening. Congratulations to each and every one of you, and thank you for your dedication and service and leadership to Canada. Now we will have dinner. So bon appetit, and apparently we're back on stage at 7:30, so eat fast, I guess, I don't know.
All right, everyone. In the interest of keeping us close to our schedule, I think I'm going to begin the panel discussion. May I have your attention, please? Hello again. Did you enjoy your dinner? Good, good, yes. So we're going to get started again, just in the interest of time, so we stay relatively on schedule. I did see another former politician sneak into the room after I left the stage. Let me please introduce the former leader of the Green Party. Anime Paul is with us tonight, too. Thank you for joining us. And now it's my pleasure to get this panel discussion underway. Tonight, their discussion will be focused on leadership in uncertain times. At this point in history where uncertainty is perhaps the only certainty. Our moderator is Indira Nandu-Harris, who's the Associate Vice President for Diversity and Human Rights at the University of Guelph. She's also, as many of you may know, a former provincial member of Parliament and a minister, as well as an experienced broadcast journalist. You've already met our 4 stellar honorees, including Lisa, Mohammed, Jackie, and Joseph. And now I'd like to pass the floor to Indira. Welcome her, please.
I'm just going to ask our honorees to take their places on the stage before we get started. So just give us a moment. Thank you, Mayor Crombie. I think she deserves a round of applause. I think she's doing a fantastic job this evening. Good evening, everyone. Bonjour, Annie. I can't tell you how great it is to be here with you all this evening for this important conversation about leadership in uncertain times. I'm Indira Nandu-Harris, and it's an honor, an absolute honor to be here with you all this evening. What makes this evening so special is that I have seen so many people that I haven't seen in years. Isn't that amazing? You look around the room and you see old friends. Sometimes it takes a minute to even recognize them, and I feel a little guilty about that. But that's our reality. That's the way things have been over the last few years. As you know, our world is constantly changing, becoming more complex and challenging. But nothing has put us more to the test than the last few years. That's because we've been dealing with a global pandemic, social isolation, financial uncertainty, climate crises, geopolitical instability, and shifting priorities all through this time. Virtually all of these things happening at the same time. Just think about that. And this has created enormous challenges for us and made the future largely unpredictable. So finding ways to navigate forward during these uncertain times is more important now, I would say, than ever before. But how do we do that? How do our leaders come up with a strong path forward when the ground underneath them is shaky? It's not firm. You don't know where to plant your feet exactly. It's constantly shifting and changing. How do we build when it's unclear what we can build? Really, how do we build when we don't know what we can build? So, what's next? Well, joining us today to help us navigate through these uncertain times are the Pearson Center's Progressive Leadership Award winners. some remarkable, amazing individuals that you all know, people who have been doing outstanding things in their areas. Not just doing them, but doing outstanding things, who are making a real difference in their fields. So, let's find out now how they are accomplishing things during these turbulent times and hear their ideas about how we can all plot a solid path forward in the coming years. So thank you. Just give me a minute and I'll join them right now. Okay, I'm hoping my mic is on, and it is. That's fantastic. These are the things sometimes you're never sure about how they're going to go. But I'm going to start. So here today is, of course, Lisa Raitt, Joseph Manzanelli, Mohammed Faki, and Jackie Parchman. Please give them another round of applause. I think they deserve it. And I want to really talk about this. World unrest, financial crises, a global pandemic, and climate disaster. Those are just some of the enormous challenges that we're facing today. No question, these are uncertain times. They are. You have kids, I have kids. We think about these things all the time. People are dealing with some of the toughest problems of our generation. And those of us who are here because we're thinking about the next generations. So tell me, what keeps you up late at night? What keeps you up? Tell me first domestically, and then I want to hear internationally.
It's complicated, very complicated. There are huge challenges. Some of them economic. Our economy, of course, is to some degree in crisis with the amount of inflation that we have and the effect that it has on folks, a lot of working people out there that would like to either buy a home or whatever, and of course, you know, with the interest rates being where they are, it creates a number of challenges. You know, working people are concerned about a lot of stuff, and you know, the same things that Lisa talked about. You know, they're worried about all those things as well. What I worry about is the supply of labor, for example. In Ontario alone, we have a shortage. Just our organization alone in the construction industry has a shortfall of about 20,000 workers that I could put to work yesterday. And that's an enormous amount of people, especially considering that our immigration patterns into Ontario are far less than what we need alone. So I worry about that, and I worry about the fact that we talk about housing shortages, and there are severe housing shortages. And with the interest rates going up the way they are, I'm not so sure that a lot of our contractors are prepared to start some of the projects. And so that compounds the problem of residential housing as well. So I'm not really so sure that the interest rates are completely going to resolve our inflation issue if in fact we stop building and then the supply of housing becomes smaller. I'm not so sure if that's a good economic play as well. So our members are worried about all of this, and I'm worried about it. I mean, our pension plan, being the largest multi-employer pension plan in the country, we have become the fourth largest developer, ironically, in the country. And our budgets were done on some of our projects a year or two ago. Well, those budgets are completely out of whack, you know, and our members are working on projects right now that are cash-strapped because the supply chain has created enormous costs and overruns on a number of projects. So it's so complicated that if we had a few more hours, I'd fill you in on the rest, but there's a lot of concerns out there.
So you're really talking about our future generations, right? We have to plan now because, as we all know, young people are not able to afford their own homes and be able to build the things that they need to in terms of their families. So two very important pieces when it comes to Canada, for sure. Mohammed Faki, I'm going to you now, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk to you a little bit more about that international piece. As you heard just earlier that Lisa was talking about, a war in the Ukraine, shifting power balances, extremism. And it's interesting because Lisa kind of touched on that when she talked about Canada being a positive country and how there are these other forces that are going on around the world. Droughts, raging wildfires, and even as Lisa suggested, the threat of nuclear disaster looming. So what concerns you internationally?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I mean, I understand the war. I lived in the war. I grew up in bunkers. I understand what it means. But I think what we should worry mostly about is sending a message to the rest of the world. Look, Canada has a great opportunity around the world. We actually can lead the world with kinder capitalism. We can show the world during a crisis, we could send a message that you could be a capitalist, but you could be kind. And you can send a message after especially a pandemic. We have all learned that if we have money and we're well, it doesn't mean that we're safe. And that's why our leadership should go beyond the border of our country. Every CEO, every business person in this room and outside this room need to start using their leadership and their experience to impact beyond their bottom line that they think it's only money. And their leadership should be used as well beyond the border of their company. People today need to see companies and support companies. They need to see countries and support countries that put people first. And I'm talking here domestically. It breaks my heart. I'm someone that, when I arrived in Canada, a smile from a Canadian made me feel welcome. It made me feel the hope of getting that citizenship. The world needs more kindness. We can sit and worry. I learned you can only do it one way. You have to be like a shark and like a goldfish. A little bit both. A shark, you keep moving forward. I'm not going to sit and worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Only for the reason to find solution, I will. But I need to be a little bit like goldfish. Stop thinking, how did we live before? Let's keep moving forward. Have 30-second memory only for those bad memory that will hold us back from running forward. Canada do have a chance. But what worries me as well, domestically, I can't believe that we have 2.5 million people that they're hungry in our country. The last study shows 16% of Canadians, they're suffering from some of food security issues. In such a wealthy country, this is lack of political will. This could be resolved. This is all of us leaders. I landed in our country with a $1,200 in my pocket, and I wasn't only accepted. I was celebrated by you, all of you. And now the universities of Canada says that we have over 6 million people hungry, and another 9 million people at the risk to be hungry soon. We all can resolve it together. I've looked through a glass of a pizza one day, and I couldn't afford a slice when I arrived here. And today, I have thousands and thousands of employees. That shows the example that Canada could give the kind of opportunity to everyone, simply everyone. So all what we need to do, what worries me really, is the kind of leadership that leading us today. We need leaders that think more about the people and the people who can't put a meal on their table before they think about being re-elected. We need business leaders to put before anything else, before the bottom line isn't a profit. Today's world, people aren't ready to support your companies unless you treat well your people and you support your community. And that's what we need to go from to resolve. We could send a strong message to the rest of the world. We have done that. Thank you to all the politicians and the great work that everyone is doing. We have sent a message that the Canadian dream is much better than the American dream. It's a dream for us all, not only for ourselves. It does not divide people with the white picket fence. It welcomes everyone and gives them a great opportunity. We can send that message again and protect our Canadian dream. We can lead the world with kinder capitalism, for sure.
Such an important couple of comments. And when you talk about kindness, you know, the bottom line is, while you all are leaders up here, that's something we can all lead in, right? that takes every single Canadian. We can all share that idea and value and try to spread it around ourselves. You don't need any money to be able to spread kindness, and you don't need the kind of support and so on to be able to do that. Jackie Parchman, coming to you now. The global pandemic created some real challenges for folks in Canada. There were times when leaders were being accused of leaving some folks behind when they were planning in terms of COVID-19 and the pandemic and the responses and plans. You're with Mercer Canada. Tell me, what is the biggest concern for you when you think about people, our workforce, and the future?
Thank you for the question, and I'm going to build on a lot of what I've heard from my great fellow panelists here. So I worry about who is being left behind. We worry about who is being left behind. Joe talked about, you know, the clear issue that we have in terms of, you know, not being able to fulfill our labor needs. And Mohammed talked about the fact that we have people going hungry. There's how can that gap exist in a country like Canada? So if I think about the kind of work that we do with our clients and, you know, what I talk to other leaders about, there's every CEO that I talk to is concerned that we're not going to have enough people to fill the jobs we have. But we still live in a Canada where, you know, women coming back into the workforce after the pandemic we're seeing that the stats show that they're facing much more extreme mental stress and burnout than men. We live in a country where 30% of our population is BIPOC or First Nations, and we know that all of us have not had the opportunities, have not had access to what would allow us to thrive and to grow. And we live in a country where it's so amazing. There's very little controversy over immigration. Think about this. We have, you know, the leader of the biggest labor union in the country who's calling for more immigrants. We have our governments calling for more immigrants. We have CEOs calling for more immigrants. But when people come to this country, can they get the kind of job that they need to sustain their families, and can they use their qualifications in a way that will allow them to be healthy and whole and serve us in the best way? So I think our biggest challenge is people and how we bring everyone along. And I think our biggest opportunity, because I'm a very glass half full kind of person, is people and how we bring everyone along. Think about a Canada where women equally with men have an opportunity to thrive in our workforce. Think about a Canada where Black people, other people of color, First Nations people have access to equal opportunity. And think about a Canada where immigrants get to bring all of their resources, all of their training in the way that they want. That Canada is unbeatable.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. You're all here tonight because you're remarkable leaders, no question, okay? And over the years, each of you has had to find solutions to some very challenging problems and difficulties along the way. So I'm going back to you, Lisa. Tell me, what do you think we should be doing to help people cope during these turbulent times? How can leaders support people? Because as Jackie said, it's not just, you know, you get people here, they need to find a job, but we all know they also need that support in order for them to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, being successful is about more than that. So tell me, what are your thoughts?
So I would just say that although my accomplishments, and the reason why I'm here today is because of my time in government and the work that I did there, I really feel that what I am more apt to give going forward has to do with the role of caregiver that I've been put into since my husband was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's. And I draw on that a lot in terms of, and I apply a lot of the lessons I'm learning through that and the stories I'm hearing from other people who are caregivers. And I'm trying to apply it back into both public policy and in professional life. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's tough. But I have one piece that I would hope that we can all take back and think about. And it would be on the kindness side. Just know that people are going through a lot. There's a lot of grief out there. There's a lot of grief happening. You don't know what's happening behind the doors. You don't know how people are reacting to things that are happening in their lives, and you may fundamentally disagree with them on whatever topic that they feel passionately about, but they're obviously emotional. And I know anger is a terrible word, but equally, grief and fear worry me more. And I just would hope that leaders remember that at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. We all have a story behind us, and we all can actually learn from one another if you just take the time to listen. So listening is the big skill we're going to need going through these times that are troubled, and then learning and applying it as best you can. And then, not beating up on each other all the time. See, it's so nice being post-partisan. Look, we can hold hands, Indira. We can hold hands. We can be buddies. It's a really nice relief. And I think much as humbling as it is to lose your seat, as I did in 2019, it's even more level setting to experience the grief that you can experience and know that there's great human kindness out there, but there's a need for great understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Joseph Mancinelli, tell me, you've been talking about your workers and what your needs are when it comes to the workforce. What do we have to do as a country to support people?
There are a lot of things. I think from a political side, I love Lisa's comment about listening. And I think that in a lot of political circles, I think that there could be a lot of better listening to what the people really want and really need in Canada. What do we give workers? We have a great standard of living in Canada already. I think probably one of the best in the world, and I think that there are countries out there that would love to have our problems, clearly, because our problems are nothing compared to some of the problems that exist around the world. But we could do so much better when it comes to immigration, for example. We haven't had a comprehensive immigration program in Canada for quite some time. And I think that our governments, for anyone who is listening out there, we should be running a program that is like an HR program in Canada, where we should be bringing people in that we need, And I know that we have refugees and folks that need to come to the country because of some very severe reasons. But then we're not vetting folks that we really need. And we need them in so many different sectors, and we don't have a strong immigration program that can vet folks that come in to fill that void that we have. And we have, in Ontario alone, we have a void of 400,000 workers that we need here. And it's putting enormous strain on our contractors and our employers in many different sectors, not only the construction industry, that's the sector that I know the best, but it's putting enormous stress on a number of sectors in our economy, and the workers feel it. They feel the stress. You take a construction site that right now isn't working with a full complement of workers, which means that the workers that are there have to pick up the slack and try to fill that void of productivity. And so that adds enormous pressure on folks. So immigration, I think, is a very, very important factor in solving some of the big issues that we have. I know that if we let in 1 million people tomorrow, I know that that's going to complicate the housing crisis we already have. So there is no silver bullet here that fixes problems instantly. But I think that if our leaders pay attention to the kind of issues that we're all bringing up here today, whether it be poverty, whether it be shortage of labor, whether it be economic factors, whether it be the interest rates, whether it be the economy, I think that we would be definitely better off.
For sure. Mohammed Faki, executives now are operating under extreme uncertainty. having to adapt really quickly, be flexible, and plan dynamically. You know, you can't have those sort of static strategies and so on. You need to be able to think on your feet. So how are you doing that? How are you able to accomplish that? And do you have any tips or advice that you want to share with some of the other folks in the room?
Well, I mean, it's very important that we lead by example all the time, every single time. I find culture is very important. In business, in life, everywhere, culture is very important. And leadership for me is not something like you put on and you take off. It depends on the day of the week. When someone is a leader leading their company, leading their team, it hurts. You feel it every single day. When you see something wrong happening and you say nothing about it, it hurts. When you see something could be fixed by our political leader or business leader and it's not happening, it hurts. How do I help people to cope? I help them to cope by listening to them. I help them to cope. I'll tell you just a short story how we do our strategy in all my companies, not only Paramount. We go somewhere far. I follow my team 2 days after. I let them create the strategy themselves. Yeah. And when they create the strategy based on the direction and the culture of the company, now they automatically bought into it. And now you're creating a very, very positive environment. And when I follow them, because if I go with them the first day, everybody's going to say, it's because he's here, and they're going to worry about me and my thoughts. When I follow them down, they're defending the strategy that they tried to put in together. And now they buy into it more. And what we need to do at a bigger scale is listening to people, making them feel that oneness, showing up for them. Lead them by example of understanding that we feel what they need. I sometimes look at, and Lisa and a lot of politicians here, forgive me, maybe it's my accent, because you might have an accent sometimes the way you speak, and sometimes I feel I have an accent the way I understand leaders. Because I'm very disappointed how I see what people need and how they come out with political program that has nothing to do with what people need, right? Including during the pandemic, like you're having people that never open a lemonade stand telling business people what they need to run their businesses. That's crazy. We have great business leaders that could actually lead and understand the dream of those women that you were talking about. Those dreams that got shattered in our during the pandemic because the people who were trying to provide solutions did not actually ever done the job of those businesses that they needed the solution. So what we need is to listen. Listen to people and not pick and choose. Leadership isn't something we wear. Leadership isn't that you show your leadership when it's easy. It's mostly when it's hard. And what people are looking for, really, to be inspired. People looking for people to inspire them. And when they see the leadership of our country, not only political leader, we do appreciate. It's so difficult to get into politics, I'll be honest with you. And I see a lot of my friends are in politics, and they're very difficult to make everyone's happy. Barely you do the opposite. You don't make anyone happy at the end, even if your intentions are right. But still at the same time, we have a great business leaders. We have a specialized people in everything. But yet we understood that during our medical pandemic, the people who were taking medical decisions were not doctors, right? And people were taking business decisions, never open a lemonade stand. We're making it difficult. We're not inspiring for the people who are looking for inspiration. People are looking for hope. And hope comes from honesty. Hope comes from showing that oneness and understanding and feeling people's pain and not feeling it just to put a speech. Feeling it by going down and seeing people that looks better than me lining up during the pandemic to grab a meal that we were cooking on a Sunday. Our country is the best country on earth. We're just looking for people to inspire us.
So I'm going to ask how we're doing for time, because I know I could go on with this conversation for hours. How are we doing? Anybody can tell me the time? 10 after 8. Well, I'm supposed to be done by now, but we're going to continue just a little longer, and I hope the folks are okay with that. So, okay, we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about the fact that we need new leaders. So, Jackie, let's talk about that. You know, the world is less predictable, and there are changes happening at a rapid pace, and really major things that are happening that we need to have our eyes and ears to the ground on in order to figure out what our next step will be and how that should, how that should work out. So tell me, what are your thoughts? Is there a need for a new type of leadership, which is essentially what Mohammed was suggesting?
So yes, and maybe I'll define what I think the leadership is that we need now. So at Mercer, we talk about leadership. For leaders, it's important to focus on both empathy and economics. So listening, being humble, being authentic, caring, doing everything possible to keep your employees safe and well. And when I say safe and well, wellness means mental wellness, it means physical wellness, it means financial wellness. Really important that we can do what we need to do to pay our colleagues a good standard of living, right? All of that's really important. But I think it's also important to be honest about the need for growth and the need for economics and the need to run businesses the way they need to be run. So we can't pretend that one is more than the other. We absolutely need both. If we don't have people who are engaged and happy and well and want to show up and want to be part of the journey, obviously our businesses, our governments, our society can't be successful. But if we don't also have a plan for growth, whether it's business, whether it's government, whether it's anything else, people are not stupid. They will not be fooled. They will not want to follow you. They'll know it won't work out. So I think having the empathy, but also being really honest about the need to balance both sides. For me, that's incredibly critical.
Please. Yes. Lisa, you've been a national politician, you've been a bank leader, and so you know what leadership is about. You have been there and seen it, very close up. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with a little criticism. People every now and then toss that out at our leaders, and in fact, it's not unusual to hear people complain, saying, the quality of the leadership that we are seeing today is not as good as it could be, or they should be more like this or more like that. So, what do you think? Do you agree? Is there a need for a different, are the quality of leaders that we're getting, and I don't just talk nationally, but even internationally, are the folks that we're bringing in able to really tackle some of these enormous questions?
Yeah, I think all problems are tackleable. Here's the deal. You know yourself that once you get into a government, you have this enormous and talented public service that is there to ensure that the politicians don't mess it up. By the way, Mohammed, you had the best line of the night. Politics is crazy. Absolutely. You're 100% right. It doesn't make any sense at all. But it's the best system in the world, and we're going to stick with it. Democracy is by far the best system. So as long as we have the bureaucracy in place that does the work that needs to do to keep all the politicians. I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I rarely bring my son to events because he rarely agrees to come, but he came this evening. And I feel very, very strongly about the fact that the next generation has to step up. It's time for them. And I have no problem with politicians in their 20s seeking leadership positions. I think we need to have that different perspective. If there's anything I learned is that the approach to how we dealt with COVID as politicians and as businesses was definitely felt differently by the younger generation than it was felt by my generation. I want to learn from them how they want to change and make rules and policies that I guess reflect their experience. So I'm all for passing the torch. I'm ready. I'm ready to pass the torch. And it's not because I want to retire. I'm not quite quitting. I'm not early retiring, although I could do that. But not tonight, Roman. I'm going to stay here. But I'm ready to see that next generation. I want to give them runway. I want to see what they got. I want their passion. I want their energy. and I want them to know that I listen to their voice, and I want them to have power.
So, final question. I'm going to go back to you, Lisa, and I'm
Oh.
just going to go around very
Sorry about
quickly.
that.
We're going to wrap
I'll be
things
very
up.
short this time.
No. This is great. So we talk about young people.
Yeah.
Let's talk about hope. Tell me, what is the thing that makes you hopeful? When you are lying there at night and you are worrying about all these things that are going on in the world, you probably can't settle unless you think about something that you find comfortable and calming. So do you have hope for the future, and what is that?
I do. The next generation has unfettered optimism, something that you lose in your 50s.
Okay. All right, okay. And what about you, Joseph? Hope. Do you have hope when you think about the future? And if so,
Absolutely.
what gives you hope?
Absolutely. I'm an optimistic person by nature, and I like to surround myself with optimistic people. And I have great hopes for the future of this country. I think that our political system is one of the best in the world. We don't have the problems and the divisions that we have in the United States, for example. And so we've got a very stable system. So I have hope that on the political side, regardless of who's there and what personalities are there, I think that the politicians that are in this room can appreciate the fact that you can't be all things to all people. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you're in politics. You have to try to please everyone. But nonetheless, I'm very hopeful that they will do the right things as moving forward. And it's a bumpy road. We know that. They don't make the best decisions all the time, but they do make some good decisions in order to move forward. So I'm hopeful there. But I'm also hopeful because of young people. I have had the opportunity in our own organization of pushing the agenda to make sure that we bring as many young people as possible into our organization, bringing in as many women into the construction industry, for example, and working very closely with Minister Monty McNaughton. It shows you how hopeful we are when you have a conservative government and a conservative Minister of Labor that is so progressive and has been able to move the agenda, our agenda, forward in such a positive way. So I am really hopeful. And I've 5 children, and so Lisa's absolutely right. They're a lot smarter than I am right now because they're younger than I am, and I've kind of forgotten how smart I was when I was their age. But they are smart. This new generation of young people are really smart. And it seems like every generation that moves forward, they get smarter and smarter. So I have great hopes for our country and my grandchildren. I've got 2 grandchildren already, and I think about them all the time. And I think about some of the problems as well that we've talked about here today that may affect them as well. But I haven't lost hope. I think this is still the greatest country on the planet, and I have great aspirations for the next generation to come.
Fantastic. Yeah. Mohammed, what gives you hope?
Thank you for the question, but before that, I want to acknowledge someone that worked at Paramount and served for many years. He managed one of our locations. I just saw him. Shavan, thank you very much for your service. You have made me a better person by supporting our company. Thank you. Thank you. Everything gives me hope. I smile 21 hours a day. I mean, nothing hurt except my jaws. If you want to feel hope, just read my story. I came here very poor, and Canadian gave me the biggest opportunity. This room gives me hope. The Pearson Center conversation gives me hope. You know, mentors and friends like Hazel and Bonnie gives me hope, because you feel you're never going to become successful on your own. And when people show up for you, and they support you, and they treat you like you have a family, when you don't have anyone from your family member here, but you feel among family, and I do feel among family in Canada, that gives me hope. And I'll tell you one more thing gave me hope. When people used to tell me, why don't you put your face eating shawarma on the bus, and that's how what advertise Paramount? You know, I'm like, people don't want to see my face, and plus eating, I look very ugly. Why don't we feed that shawarma sandwich to the poor, and then the community will support support our companies. Now they call it difficult name, ESG, and several letters. It gives me hope that last 10, 15 years we've done that at Paramount. And today, a lot of companies are demanding, shareholders are demanding from their CEO to get involved. It gives me hope that people are realizing that if you want to make a profit, shareholders should not come first. You put your employee first, and then the shareholder will make money, but we will lead a better country and a great example in the rest of the world. That's what gives me hope. Thank you.
Jackie, you have the final word.
Well, that's a very hard act to follow, I gotta say.
What gives you hope?
So, you know, my life experience gives me hope. Similar to Mohammed, I'm an immigrant. My family came to this country when I was 14 years old. I was able to work my way through university. I was able to have boundless opportunity and to be in a position where, you know, hopefully I can give back, and that's incredibly important to me. What else gives me hope? I have the great good fortune to work with a lot of small grassroots nonprofits. So yes, I'm on the board of Black North. Yes, I'm on the board of the Business Council, but I also do a lot of work with organizations that are much smaller. And if I'm having a bad day and I'm feeling a little bit whiny, there is nothing that cures that, like being on a call or having a meeting with someone who is trying to stop violence in their community, someone who is trying to empower young women, young Black women, so many amazing things. Someone that's trying to cure homelessness or starvation in their community with very little, but with incredible optimism and with incredible energy. And you can't listen to those stories or participate in those meetings without thinking, wow, I can do more. And we have such great people in this country.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is a conversation, everyone, about uncertainty and leadership, and I can tell you that I'm going to walk away tonight feeling a little bit more hopeful. So thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. An amazing conversation. And now our co-chair, Sean Strickland, is going to join us and say some thank yous.
Thank you. Please, a big round of applause for our moderator, Indira, and our panelists. Thanks once again to Lisa, Mohammed, Jackie, and my good friend Joseph. This has been an illuminating and hopeful conversation. You have given us much to think about in these times of rapid change. Indeed, you each exemplify progressive leadership in uncertain times. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Bonnie and Andrew to bring the proceedings to a close, and I'd like to thank the Pearson Center for the opportunity to contribute in some small way this evening's proceedings. Thank you.
Well, let me add my thanks and appreciation to these very inspirational and selfless people, if I may say so. Thank you all, and to Indira, thank you for moderating, a great job that you have done. And thank you to all of you for joining us tonight as well. The sponsors in particular, Labor and the business representatives, the NGOs, and Canadians like you who are interested in good public policy. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Cardozo, and I'm president of the center. On behalf of the Pearson Center and all of us today, Sean Strickland and Mayor Bonnie Crombie, thank you for being the wonderful co-chairs that you've been this evening. I want to also thank Indira Naidu-Harris for returning to your roots as a broadcast journalist. I hope you've enjoyed the evening as much as we enjoyed you chairing today. So a huge shout out to all of you who are sponsors and all of you who bought tickets. You really make good public policy possible. You advance the cause of good public policy, and we need a lot of that these days. I want to thank our volunteers today who have done a wonderful job. Can all of you who are volunteers just wave, and we'll give you a thank you for your great work. Thank you to the Pearson Center board members who are here. Yasmin Shaker, David Miller, Catherine Contras, Natasha Bronfman, Daphne Lobo, and Howard Brown. Thank you to all of you. Please wave, and I'd say stand up. Stand up, and the volunteers. Please stand up. Oh, the volunteers too, please. And a special thank you to Mika Buckley Pearson, who is here. It's always good to have a member of the Pearson family with us. Mika, stand up for... Mika is the great-granddaughter of Lester B. Pearson, but we think she's she's a great-granddaughter, but she is great, and we think she's a great-great-granddaughter. We can keep arguing about that, but she's great. Good to have you at all our events, Mika. Now, I want to just remind you about a couple of things. One is the Pearson Center tote bag. You can get these for a small donation, a fairly sizable donation of $125 for a year, or it can be split up evenly over a month. These are on your table, and we will send you a tote bag, which I'm pleased to say is both a green object and union-made here in Canada. So please consider that. We'd like to keep in touch with you, so make sure you fill out one of these and also add your name to the list, and we'll keep in touch with you. Now, I just want to tell you about the next few events coming up. Our fall conference will take place in November, where we'll be dealing with 5 urgent items facing Canada. The spring conference in March will take place. We'll look at more short as well as long-term issues. Both of these conferences will be a combination of webinars that we've had, similar to the ones we've had over the last 2 years. I got to tell you, so we're 9 years old. In the first 7 years of our existence, we had about 7,000 people attend all our events over the first 7 years. Over the 2 years of webinars of COVID, we had over 11,000 people attend our events over 2 years. So it's a wonderful opportunity for people across the country to participate and hear, and some of these wonderful people have been on our webinars, and we'll be asked again. Lastly, we will have the gala next year. We'll return to have it in the spring, and we're looking at the date of May 25. Now, and that'll be here in Toronto. Now, before you leave, there are flowers on the table. Each table, discuss among yourselves and decide how you can, who's going to get the flowers. Sorry, you in the middle. Are you Mr. Shamji? Can I just introduce you two? Adil Shamji is a new member of Provincial Parliament, who's, sorry, I know he was at an event in his riding, and I'm glad you've joined us today. Congratulations on your election. Please, before you go, please join us back upstairs for a glass of wine or a beer. I don't want to say before you hit the road, it's not have a drink and drive. It's like, if you're not driving, then you get to drink. And lastly, I'm going to ask the honorees to stay on the stage and maybe line up here, and we'll take a group picture with all of you, with the co-chairs and Indira, and anybody else who'd like to join in and take pictures, please do that. So the 4 honorees, if you can line up in the middle, we'll get a picture with you and the co-chairs.